Yo man, it's your boy Sasuke Uzumaki. Welcome to my Batman 2022 review. This is probably my first review on a movie ever. Typically when I go see movies, if I enjoy them, I enjoy them. If I don't like them, I don't like them or whatever. But Annika had asked me, she was like, "Hey Chris, since you like Batman and Batman's your favorite superhero, why not, give a review on your thoughts on the new film?" So I thought I would go ahead and entertain the idea and bring it to you here. Now, because this is my first review, this is obviously going to be spoilers because I am talking about it. So I'm pretty sure I put it in the title as well. Spoilers. I hope that the review won't drag on too long. I'll try to probably keep it maybe within like 20 minutes or so. Just to kind of give my thoughts on the film as a whole. So here we go. I'll try to like I said, I'll try to be as concise with my review. Like I said, I'm not the best reviewer. It's my first one, so feel free to leave your thoughts below in the film. Like I said, since this is going to be spoiler alerts, I must say it again. I must reiterate. If you guys haven't seen the movie, this will be talking about the movie. So spoilers, spoilers. So please don't get angry with me for talking about the film. It's like, well, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, and then come back to this video. All right, so we got that clear, right? Spoilers. We're gonna talk about the film. We are okay. We're good. All right, let's go. Okay, so let's get started, man. So Batman, being played by Robert Pattinson, who's famously well known for his, his role in the Twilight series. One thing I kind of noticed was when Batman was trending, especially like the last couple weeks. People were uncertain before the reviews for the film even came out. People were uncertain about how Robert Pattinson's Batman was going to be. Obviously, you had the trailer. The trailer had already came out for the film, of course, but Batman is quite a character to play. Like he's arguably one of the greatest superheroes ever, if not the most popular superhero. I would say now even more so than Superman. As far as DC Comics is concerned, easily one of the greatest superheroes of all time. So playing the mantle of Batman, by Robert Pattinson, I'm pretty sure people had skepticism about how serious the role would be taken by him, and I thought he did an amazing job. Visually speaking, when he wore the bat suit, his visual look reminded me so much, in the face. Like when you're looking at his head, his face, it reminded me so much of the Batman Arkham series developed by Rocksteady Studios. Like to me, visually, that's what he looks like. Probably, I would say his appearance in Batman Arkham City was probably like what I got out of it. With the his facial appearance. I would say that was probably like what really kind of captured me as his portrayal as Batman. I thought that was really cool. Batman was giving an opening monologue talking about how Gotham is corrupt and how he wants to fight that corruption being by being vengeful, by causing the criminal element to be fearful. And that's a huge part of Batman's character as a whole, where he instills fear in his enemies. And that's always been something that Batman would use. Like, how many times have you seen, maybe like in the Rocksteady games, he did an interrogation scheme, and he intimidates people, he gets them to fear him. And, like in the animated series, where there was that classic Bruce Timm shot, where it's literally just Batman is like a shadow, like a huge shadow, like when he's in a dark area, you just see his glowing white eyes, and he ends up intimidating, criminals. So when they showed the bat symbol in the opening, he talked about how, like I said, that he's a spirit of vengeance. So criminals would think like, oh, like, oh man, like, I don't know about this, man, I don't know about this, or whatever, but they still, would commit their crimes, since he said, he can't be everywhere, but the symbol's like, warning criminals, I'm out there, they may think that I might jump out of the shadows, but I am the shadows. So again, that whole fearful element is there, that he wanted to be, for Gotham, to instill the element of fear in criminals, to make the city beware that he's on the lookout. Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz, lovely woman. I thought her performance was great. She has a lot more of a, I would say a bit more of a personal role in comparison to other Catwoman media. She has a roommate named Annika that she was staying with. She's working at the Iceberg Lounge, and she's associated with Carmine Falcone's lieutenant, the Penguin. And the Penguin, he's not quite at the crime boss level yet, since Batman has only been doing the vigilanteism for about 2 years. But surprisingly, he's open with working with Lieutenant Gordon. He's not Commissioner Gordon, so again, it's pretty much kind of like an origin story, since since the film is pretty much a reboot, and Gordon is willing to work with Batman, and some of the GCPD is like, they're like, they're skeptical about Batman's motives, since he's a vigilante and he's operating outside of the law. But Jim. Well, that is his nickname, Jim. James Gordon. James Gordon. Um, there's that. There was that. The fight scenes I thought were great. Before I even get to that, the Riddler is the main bad guy in the film. He definitely gives off Saw vibes. Like if you guys have seen the Saw franchise, like he's going around Gotham City, killing Gotham City's elite people. Because Gotham is at that point has a very strong surge in crime and corruption. There's corruption within the police. There's, of course, again, it goes back to the criminal element, politicians, and that sort. So Riddler decides to be a bit of a kind of takes like the role of Jigsaw, where he decides to punish Gotham's elite because of their corruption, by leaving elaborate traps. At the beginning of the film, he ends up killing the mayor. He ends up bludgeoning him to death, and then wrapping him up in tape. And then he's leaving clues for Batman to quote unquote find the next victim. So Batman is, one thing I appreciated about this film. Batman is forced to think a lot more. In previous films, with the Dark Knight trilogy, you see Batman a lot of in action, but you don't see Batman really do too much detective work. It's there, but in this film, it's a lot stronger. Like Batman is being forced to really think, like, oh man, like okay, like, to the Batman, what does this mean? There's a bunch of puzzles that Batman and James Gordon have to solve. Like for instance, where oh my goodness, I'm sorry guys. He ends up kidnapping one of the, oh my goodness, what was the he ends up kidnapping the guy. You know who I'm talking about. He ends up strapping a bomb to him. And Batman is trying to get information out of him, trying to figure out, what is going on. Oh yes, the district attorney. That's what it was. Gil Colson. Batman and Selena had previously, they were working together after Batman was spying on Selena and finding out that, again, going back to earlier what I said about about her working at the Iceberg Lounge. So Batman convinces Selena to work with him briefly, and they're trying to find people that the Riddler has targeted. Um, so it's basically like a hit list, and just looking for people that that Riddler could potentially target in the city when they start catching on to Riddler's clues. And then we're introduced to Falcone in the middle of that, at the end of the scene with the Iceberg Lounge. So when Riddler kidnaps Coulson, he has the timed bomb collar, and he's trying to figure out who is the next victim. Who is who's the informant that's giving the GCPD evidence that led to Maroney's operation that ended their drug empire. So they have, like, you have Maroney, the Falcones, and stuff like that. But he refuses to answer when after Riddler gave him three clues. I mean, three questions. He answered the first two, but he ends up dying on the third. So he thought that even with his life on the line, it wasn't worth snitching. So again, Batman and Gordon are working together, and they're just trying to piece everything together because people are dying, and they're dying really quickly. And Batman and Gordon are being forced to overthink and overthink and overthink. They're like, man, where's this guy? What is this guy doing? And Riddler is just pretty much toying with them. So, later on in the film, Batman trails Riddler, and he's trying to follow him, and he discovers that that the Waynes had an old orphanage. Well, actually, he actually knew that they had an old orphanage because he saw it in their records. And it turns out that the Waynes are they're not corrupt, but they're not perfect. Their squeaky clean image is muddled a bit. And Riddler holds a grudge against the Waynes because of the children there. It's that Thomas Wayne was trying to eliminate evidence that he was in dirty dealings, getting involved with the mob and everything. But Riddler decides to kill Bruce Wayne because he leaves a clue that says sins of the father, the saying, the sins of the father shall be visited upon the son. So he mails a bomb to the Wayne Manor, and Alfred Pennyworth almost dies. Like I thought that was curtains for Alfred Pennyworth, but he ends up throwing away the bomb in time, but he ends up getting blasted and injured in the fire. So I thought it was curtains right there when we saw it when I saw the film. And again, Riddler was leaking evidence that Wayne was working with the mob. As he was running for mayor to kill a journalist for revealing, details about Martha's mental illness. So that's where the conflict is for Batman. It's like, now, why do I defend a city that has a bunch of corruption, like when my family is corrupt? And it reminded me so much of Batman the Telltale series, because that was a huge premise for Bruce Wayne and Batman in that video game series. So that's kind of like where I draw the parallels from when I was seeing that. Though they weren't like mob gangsters or anything like that, but that same sense of corruption was there. So after that, you pretty much Batman was just unsure about what to do. Him believing that that everything that he knows is a lie. But Alfred was telling Bruce, like, hey, like, your father, he had his demons, but he wanted to make sure that the journalist was out of the way, but he did not want him to die. He was going to actually try to incarcerate the journalist instead, but Falcone was like, nah, I'm gonna have them bumped off because they know too much. Now that he's associated with me, and now he's trying to, do a face turn, we're gonna cut them out of the picture. So later on, after we reveal, after we end up dealing with Falcone, Selena ends up telling Batman that Falcone is her father, but Falcone doesn't know it at the time. And then when they end up playing the tape, when James and Batman end up trying to find the rat that were after the clues that Riddler had left behind, Selena is beating the living hell out of Falcone. Like, she's trying to kill him, but Batman stops Selena from killing Falcone, because Selena ended up learning that Falcone had strangled Annika because of of what Mitchell tells Falcone that she was the informant. So it's like, nope, I gotta have her. I gotta, Falcone decides to kill her. It's like, nope, she knows too much. The bitch knows too much. So I'm gonna kill her. You know. So that's where that happens. And the action scenes were great. Like I said, my personal favorite action scene was the elevator scene, and yeah, it's just a bunch of gunfire, and Batman is just beating the living crap out of them. You just see the silhouettes from all the gunshots being fired, and I thought that was the best scene in the entire film. But later, when Riddler is captured, it's discovered that he's actually a forensics accountant named Edward Nashton, not Edward Nigma, that what I guess is my nickname, and he was incarcerated in Arkham State Hospital. But he was sad that he didn't end up killing Bruce Wayne. But he also tells Batman, like, hey, I admire you, man. Like, you're a vigilante. You're bringing fear, the element of fear to Gotham City, and that's what I like, because you realize the corruption is there. You realize that the corruption is there and they need to be punished. And Batman was like, no, you're insane. So he ends up rejecting Edward's offer of a potential partnership, and Nigma tells Batman, like, hey, like, I've kind of been stringing you along, like all the clues have led you here, but yet you've let so many people die up until this point. And Batman then realizes that, oh snap, the game is not over. Like, even though I incarcerated this guy, Edward still had a trick up his sleeve, and he had a bunch of bombs that were cultivated around Gotham, and he had built this online following. He was sending videos out to the public talking about how Gotham was corrupt, about the Waynes and the politicians and so forth. And car bombs just blow up all over Gotham. And he even tried to assassinate the mayor-elect, Bella Real. And after that, the bombs end up flooding Gotham, and it's bad because Batman then realizes, like, oh man, like, I've inspired fear in Gotham, but Gotham needs a better symbol than just fear. Like, I don't want the people of Gotham to fear the Batman, but rather, Gotham needs hope. Gotham needs inspiration that there can be good in the city. And Batman ends up saving he ends up saving the people that were at the election, or not the election. They were at the ceremony for the new mayor elect at the time, for Bella Real. But when the bombs go off, Gotham is flooded. There are people being swept away, cars are being swept away, buildings are being destroyed. And Batman's like, oh my goodness, like, because I had it backwards, I thought fear was the way to do it, but you can't save people like that. Gotham becomes worse, and that's how the criminal element, ends up flourishing, because it's like, when you have fear, there's no hope, and when you have no hope, what's just left is just the worst parts of Gotham, So Batman and Selena end up working together to save the people inside of the stadium, and helping people, and Batman even, like, almost YOLOs himself out of the picture, and I thought he was done for there, but he doesn't. So Selena later tells Batman, like, hey, why don't you just leave Gotham? Like, Gotham is just getting worse. But Batman says, no, like, we need to give, I need to give Gotham hope. And there's a scene where, at the end, when he's done rescuing the people, he ends up wading them through the water, lights a flare, and that light, it's a symbolism, saying that Batman can be the light of Gotham instead of, just being the Dark Knight, but that he can be the light that Gotham needs, in having that sense of hope. And that's pretty much the film right there. I'm sorry if I kind of rambled on there. Like I said, this is really my first review, so I'm kind of giving it off the cuff there. But I thought the film was great. It was amazing. Like I said, Robert, he really surprised me. Like I said, he really surprised me with his portrayal as Batman, and I really enjoyed it a lot. Selena was great. Lieutenant Gordon was great. Like I said, he had no hesitation with working with Batman. Though I will say that Paul Dano, right? Is that his name? Paul Dano, the Riddler guy, I believe. Yeah, Paul Dano. Yeah, he was the one who played the Riddler. I thought he was a little too geeky, a little too dorky looking with the glasses. I thought, that for a, intimidating villain, like, they probably could have went with a different direction with his design. He probably, he wears glasses, like, Riddler has worn glasses, but he looked a little too geeky for, like, a... Yeah, I mean, that's not to insult, the portrayal of the character. I thought Paul Dano was great. Like I said, it reminded me so much of the Saw series. But that's kind of like where out of, like, that was probably like my only gripe with the film, that, Paul Dano's character design was a little too geeky, especially, like, like in the prison scene. Like, it's like, oh my god, like, he looks like a dork, like, not menacing, someone who's trying to, bump off Gotham's corrupt and stuff. But other than that, I'm really looking forward to what the sequel will have in store. I think I heard that there were going to be there were talks already for a sequel. So Matt Reeves, man, I applaud you. Congratulations on making a great Batman film. Though it's not my favorite film, but it's definitely refreshing to see a new Batman solo film after a decade. Since The Dark Knight Rises. It was a really nice treat to see. I really loved it. So, guys, feel free to leave your comments in the your thoughts in the comment section below, man. If you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, if you wish, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.